We met at the Proud Cavalier on Oxford Row. Not a very nice pub, really, fairly dirty and extremely noisy, but it was a good halfway point for our places of work. Well, for Tom's, at any rate, so it made sense to meet there. Tom was rather late, but that didn't matter. I bought myself a pint and perched myself at the bar, since there were no tables available. I checked the sports news on my phone. I'm not that interested in the sports news, but it seemed the sort of thing that I ought to be reading about in a pub, and I thought it might come in useful if any of the regulars asked me what was going on in the world of sports, though none of them did. When Tom still didn't turn up, I bought myself a second pint and read some science and technology news, which was even less interesting, but at least I told myself I was broadening my mind. Anyway, Tom arrived and insisted that it was his round, and I joked that it was definitely his round as I had bought the last two and tried not to sound too annoyed about it. And once he had brought our pints over with a couple of packets of crisps as a sort of apology for being late, once he had settled himself on the stool next to me, though he didn't remove his coat because he said he'd only get all comfortable just as he needed to leave, well, then it was just like old times, me and Tom, pints in hand, and it was so wonderful to have a much-needed catch-up. We ran out of things to talk about fairly soon, which I suppose is natural at our age. Life moves slower when you're in your 40s, and even though it had been a year or so since we'd last caught up, maybe 2 years, there wasn't all that much news to impart when all said and done. That was fine, though. Tom was an old friend. He'd been by my side, figuratively speaking, since university. Even without having seen each other, it felt like we were very much part of each other's lives. I was godfather to his child. He had been an usher at my wedding. So it wasn't about the conversation so much as the company, the chance to spend a bit of time together. Honestly, it didn't feel like 2 years.